y'all doing? Fine. Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right, good. Thank you. I love the chorus in the front. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Something to note, on your seats, there was an Apex pamphlet. That folds all the way out. It's really fun. Take a look at the back, and we'll explain a little bit more of that later. But I also want to introduce your index cards, which I am going to read my intro off of. And you all are going to use your index cards to write down any questions that you might have throughout the show. Okay? We're going to be going for just an hour, and we've only reserved about 10 minutes for questions, but we are going to answer every single question after the event tonight. Within a week, we're going to email everyone that's here and post on our website the answers to any and all questions that come out of those index cards. So if things come to mind, if you have any questions about our process or about what we're up to, please just write it down and then let us know, and we'll be collecting them throughout the event tonight, okay? Great. So just a little bit of background on Unify Ed. For those that don't know or are new to the work that we're doing, we are founded in Hamilton County to address Hamilton County education, and public education specifically. We are unashamedly pro-public education. Thank you, right? We love Hamilton County schools. We use that as a tagline sometimes, but it really means so much more. We really believe in the public education system, and we're here to try to work with the system as well as work with everybody else in this room and the entire community towards a better system, because we believe that's possible. We have a focus on grassroots organizing. This is important because we believe that the more folks are brought to the table, the better the results will be. We also believe that if people are asked about their opinions and are engaged in the process of policymaking, those policies will be better, but those people will support those policies more as well, and that just benefits everybody. A little bit of background on the Apex project. We started with two goals in mind. Goal one was to create the absolute best policy we possibly could for Hamilton County schools that focused specifically on the systemic inequities in Hamilton County schools. And goal number two was to work with the grassroots community to ensure that that policy was implemented. We're going to be talking a little bit about both tonight, so bear with us. To note, stamping out inequities is not about bringing some folks down to bring others up, right? That's what we hear a lot. It's about how do we close the achievement gap. And while closing the achievement gap is incredibly important, we believe we can do it this way, by bringing everybody to the apex, and we hope to do that. But just like this graph, in a lot of ways, this is a mountain, and it's going to take a very long time to climb a mountain. We think this is one of the very first steps towards reaching the apex of what public education in Hamilton County could be, and we appreciate you for taking this first step here with us tonight. There is an African proverb I'd like to quote. I believe it goes, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." Tonight's about asking everyone in this room to come with us and to try to reach the apex together. So thank you all for being here. Thank you. With that, I'd like to introduce a couple employees of the Barking Legs Theater, our hosts tonight, to talk a little bit about what they do, because we think it's absolutely excellent and we really appreciate the partnership they've shown tonight. So thank you. Please welcome Bruce and Marcus.
Bruce is feeling a little under the weather this evening, so I'm here on his behalf. I would like to, however, welcome Ann Law and Ayanna Clemens. For 25 years, Barking Legs Theater has been a part of this community. We are a home for the performing arts. More than that, we are a home for everyone who walks in our door. We believe in building community around art. We believe in educating through art. We believe in connecting people through art. In fact, if you are interested, we have a full circle teaching artist program that works in Title I schools in our area. In fact, we're currently at Woodmore Elementary in kindergarten, second grade, and third grade. But by the fall, we plan on being in all grades at Woodmore Elementary School. Not just teaching kids how to dance or how to paint or how to draw, but teaching them to express themselves, to connect to each other, to have a sense of civic responsibility through the arts. So if you have any questions about that, want to learn more about that program, you can talk to Ayana, who's also attending bar tonight. We all wear many hats in this house. And we'd like to welcome you into our space. We're very happy to be able to host Unify Ed tonight and all of you. We also have free art events throughout the month. This Sunday we have our Jazz Jam, which is free to the public. Musicians come in and just vibe and have a good time. And every Wednesday night we have our free Jazz in the Lounge, which is a lot of fun, great way to meet people. And once again, it's one of those ways that we build community. And if you're interested in booking a rental for an event or hosting a show here, or even just signing up to perform for our monthly open mic night that we have the first Friday every month, come talk to me. Well, without that, thank you, and we'll be around if you need us.
So I'd just like to take a minute and give a special thank you to the staff of Unify Ed. They are an absolutely amazing team that has really done a fantastic job with this Apex project. We've collected over 4,000 opinions from the community. We've been readily engaged with many entities around the city that's already doing a lot of this work, and without the staff from the Student Voice team, which is sitting up front here, to our full-time staff and our field fellows in between, I just want to thank you all for everything that you guys do. I also would like to thank the Unify Ed Grassroots Steering Committee, 3 from every county commission district. We had 27 members, and they did an absolutely amazing job as well. So thank you to the Unify Ed Grassroots Steering Committee. You'll learn a little bit more about them today, but I just wanted to thank you from the bottom. And that gave Marcus enough time to get back to run. We have a brief video. We really are trying to keep this to an hour, so we made a 5-minute video to try to explain the process. So please watch the screen. Thank you.
So Unify Ed has been around for about 3 to 4 years. We're focused on bringing the public back into public education and being a vessel for community members, students, teachers, to raise issues that are most important to them.
They work with students as well because they want to hear like the students' voice and also the community voice about different issues within the school systems.
Now our specific focus is on equity, and that's where the Apex project came out of those conversations with community members.
Like in a lot of places, there's inequity in how resources are allocated to schools, and that's typically along the lines of race and class.
Everybody, I think, has the right to an equitable education and to get a good education in this country. And we want to make sure we're not leaving anybody out.
And so we're having continued conversations across sectors with different community partners on how we begin to address this very specific segregation in our community.
The Apex project was built to ensure that we had a community-driven, community-led policy platform for change.
Starting in August of last year, we began talking with community members across the county. So we've reached over 2,600 individuals, and we had them fill out what we called an equity worksheet, which is really a survey that collected both demographic information and qualitative information on what community members believed were the most important issues of equity or inequities in our school system, and possible solutions to those challenges.
We wanted community members to have ownership of information that they shared with us. So we added a second level of data feedback, and that was an interactive school bus. So we partnered with Colleen and Brittany with the Passage School Bus, which is used to bring tutoring into local communities, as well as Rondell Cryer at Studio Everything, and built out an interactive exhibit where folks could interact with those initial set of 25 themes and then prioritize their top 7.
So after extensive community input, we were able to narrow down equity priority areas to these 25 main points. And they're in different categories, including schools, community members, elected officials, central office administration, and community organizations. So if someone wants to vote, they take their little bag of tokens, and they go through and they have to vote at least once in each category. category.
Our process was overseen by a steering committee of 27 members of Hamilton County.
So we have 3 members from each of the 9 county commission districts and school board districts to ensure geographic diversity.
There's like different people from different backgrounds in the community, and we all have different point of views on a lot of issues.
I was very focused just in the English language learner community before, and I think I expand my vision to understand better the difference that we have and how we can achieve more together and collaborate.
Myself being a younger person and a member of the queer community, kind of was a little bit intimidated at first, but I really appreciated that we took the time to go through the process of becoming vulnerable with each other, and really we had conversations I think that I haven't personally been able to have in other settings because of the vulnerability that we created.
I think just being in a room with like-minded individuals and all of us sharing the same passion, whether we believed in the same ideas or not, we all knew that we were there for one common goal, and that kind of made it easier to maneuver through difficult topics and difficult conversations.
We really became aware of how diverse Hamilton County is, that there are people with deep feelings and deep love for our children and our teachers and our schools in every part of our county.
The next phase of our project right now involves putting out 2 of the products which capture the process so far. One being an interactive handout. We're calling it a pocket guide. Essentially, you can fold it up and put it in your back pocket and take it out when you're at meetings or if you're in the classroom. It is a way of talking to those across our county about the final 10 issues that arose out of our grassroots organizing in the APEX project. We are also taking all of those priority areas, combining them with best practice research, as well as an elevation of the work currently already underway in Hamilton County to build out a full-length policy platform proposal.
The questions that were highlighted and that was brought to the committee were the most important topics, and we have a direction to move in, and we know where we're going, and we're comfortable with it. So, and the community is behind it. So that's major.
We cannot achieve the equity without your input, so I invite everyone to take it, to be civically engaged in any way that you can, as a community member, as an organization, as a parent, as an administrator, as an elected official. So I just invite you to do the right thing and provide the equity that is needed for all our communities.
All right. Thank you, Jay, for creating that beautiful video for us. Can we give him a round of applause? So he is one of the individuals who helped us with our public school guide video. So big thank you to him, and thank you for all the work you've done for us. So how's everyone doing tonight? Everyone feeling good? We're so thankful for y'all to be here with us. It's a packed room, which is really encouraging to see this many people show up who care about our schools and care about our students. So I'm going to walk us quickly through a portion of our pocket guide. We have some nice music in the background. So these are on y'all's seats. So hopefully this is something we can walk y'all through tonight. And then you can share this with friends and family in the community. There'll be plenty of these available. We're also going to be doing an extended version of this to go deeper into each of the priority areas. So that's to come in about a month or so. So the first page, when you open it up, we talk about what is equity. So can I get someone in the crowd who can tell me the difference between equity and equality? I know some of y'all are very familiar. I see a hand. Yes.
Equity is everyone getting the same level of equality, everyone getting the same thing.
Yes, so was everyone able to hear that? No. Okay, great. Thank you for your help. So equality is when everyone receives the same resources no matter what background they come from. But equity is when individuals or students or teachers receive exactly what they need. So that can look different for different students. So that's what's really important for us today and through the APEX project to explore. So the second side is why equity matters. So you can kind of scan through that. I'm not going to go through every detail, but you guys can take time to look at that. Different arguments, different approaches. So depending on who you're speaking with, they're going to care about different aspects of the work. So then you can flip to this more long, elongated page, and it goes through the process that was described in the video. So the first step, we kicked off this project last August with John Marshall. He came from Louisville, Kentucky, so the Jefferson County Public School System. He's the Chief Equity Officer there. And at that event, we asked people who were interested to be on the steering committee to go through an application process. So we actually had over 100 people apply to be a part of that team, which was really encouraging. And we have a lot of those individuals here tonight. Everyone who is in the steering committee, can y'all please stand up so we can kind of see who's here in the room with us tonight? Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you all so much for your work. I'm sure they're as happy as we are to kind of be wrapping up this phase of the work. We've been spending a lot of time together over the past 6 months. So these individuals were chosen through a blind selection process. We had different diversity measures we were really intentional about hitting during this. So we wanted to have geographical diversity, intergenerational diversity, race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, any type of background. We really wanted to make sure we had full representation of our entire county. As you heard, I believe it was Ariel pointed out on the film, we had people from all over the county, very different opinions, but we're here united under one goal to talk about educational equity. So that was really spectacular. They worked as our accountability body for our organization and for the project. So when anything came up that we needed to tweak or that we needed to word in a different way, we had impeccable members, part of that committee, who brought this to our attention and worked with us throughout that process to tweak as needed. The other aspect, so the second piece of this was the community organizing piece. So we didn't just work with these 27 core members, we worked with thousands of community members across the county. So they were able to participate in Ed Talks. How many people went to an Ed Talk in the room? Can you raise your hand? Yeah. So we have a bunch of people. Thank you all for coming to those. We also had Building Power for Change workshops. Can y'all raise your hand if you all were able to attend any of those as well? A lot of people still. Awesome. So we have 3 different categories for those. We have an equity workshop, a historical perspective workshop, and an organizing workshop. And we still have those ongoing. So anyone interested in continuing with the work after that, we have those in the coming months, so you guys can plug in that way as well. And last was the worksheets, or the thing, Jonas, I believe he brought that up. So how many of y'all filled out an equity worksheet? A lot of y'all. Awesome. So y'all's voices were included in this the entire process. So we used those worksheets to narrow down the 25 points where people went and voted on the bus. So Aaliyah walked us through that on the video, on the process of having your tokens voting, and that is what narrowed us down to the top 10 priority areas. So if you open up your piece, you'll see this beautiful piece of artwork that outlines the 10 priority areas. So Rondell Cryer also helped us with this piece. We wanted to make sure it was beautiful and accessible to anyone in our community. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alexa, and she's going to walk us through the 10 priority areas, as well as introduce some of our lovely steering committee members who are going to share a little bit about their experience and a little about their passion points for each of one of the 10 areas. All right.
Hello, everybody. So a note to self, you still have your index cards. If a question has come up for you, if you're confused, be writing those down and find a Unified staffer. They're floating around. Mara, will you raise your hand and wave at folks? We'll be picking up any and all of your questions. Again, we'll be using actually the model that you used when Superintendent Johnson came by. We'll try to address all of these in a follow-up email. So if your question is not picked today, put it down because we will follow up. We will be sending out an email addressing everything you raise. Again, thank you to Studio Everything and Rondell for being such a beautiful partner in this. When we were talking about this pocket guide and what it would look like, we wanted to ensure that it felt more like an art piece that flowed with the experience of the project itself and reflected the kind of heart behind it, that it felt less official and felt more of like a flow, so that it could be used as a poster, it could be used in classrooms, it could be used in conversations with folks, and feel more approachable. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to kind of walk us through each of the 10, but I'm going to stop and pause and let our steering committee up here speak to some specific ones that mattered most to them. And I'll go ahead and introduce y'all now briefly, but I'll let y'all speak to how your own roles and how you see yourselves in the community. So at the far right, we have Marie. Hello. Then we have Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. Samantha. And Lauren. How are you? Good, great. All right, so if you open your packet, we're going to start at the bottom left. And the thing to remember with our final 10 themes is we divided them into responsible stakeholder groups. I think we're all well aware that public education sits at a bunch of different intersectional points in our community, and it doesn't actually fall on one of us to do anything about it, or one official or one department to answer all the things that are occurring in our public schools. It really takes all of us. And that was what we saw in the data, and that's what we experienced in conversations with people. And so they're divided into 5 main categories. The first is elected officials, the second is schools, the third is central office, the fourth is community organizations, and the fifth is community members. So that's really all of us. All of us have a call to action in this. The first one, funds must be provided to make all school facilities safe and healthy learning spaces, and there must be a long-term plan to keep them that way. The second within elected officials is there must be funding to recruit, support, and keep the best teachers. Third, and the one that Lauren will speak to, is a plan must be developed to end socioeconomic and racial segregation in our schools. So I invite you to come up here and share your story and your thoughts on this issue.
Good afternoon, or good evening, I should say. My name is Lori Mays. I had the pleasure of being selected to be one of the 27 on the Apex Steering Committee. So I am here to touch on something that has a certain place in my heart, because I come from what is considered to be a low-income neighborhood. And for 28 years, my parents and I, originally my parents moved to the neighborhood and my parents divorced. My mother and I decided to stay. That neighborhood is known now, or getting ready to be known, as West Village, West End, but I know it as the West Side. And for years, I've seen different things take place, and it's disheartening because now we're looking at College Hill Courts that is getting ready to be eliminated, and majority of those people are considered low income, and they have nowhere to go. And in instances throughout Hamilton County, they continue to close down these housing facilities, and these people continue to have nowhere to go. So I would just like to speak to that. Redlining, of course, is the practice of denying services, either directly or through selectively raising prices to residents in certain areas based on racial and ethnic composition of those areas. Segregation is enforced separation of different racial groups in a country, community, or establishment. Here in Hamilton County, single moms make up 60.2% of every household. Married couples make up 32.1% of households. Single dads make up 7.7% of households. 15% of our county lives below the poverty line. The correlation to these percentages in our children is that they are automatically at a disadvantage. Moms are working more than one job. Two-parent minority low-income households still aren't meeting the requirements to be able to buy a home. No one aspires to be a part of the low-income community. The children who are the students in our school system, unfortunately, are going to struggling schools. Those struggling schools are located in the heart of what we consider our inner city communities, our low-income neighborhoods. It seems to be that where you live and the quality of education that your child will receive go hand in hand, but it shouldn't be that way. What is it that we need to do? Hold those who we elect to be our representatives, hold them accountable. Take a stand and eliminate redlining. And if you want to know more about redlining, feel free to ask me. We had a great presentation during our time as committee members. But just take a stand, and take a stand for what is right. Make it so the teachers, administrators, and their support staff, because they have support staff, all have what they need in order to make our schools excellent. It takes us to advocate for them as well, for our schools to be great. It's not just their responsibility. We shouldn't be fighting for equality in 2018. Equality should just be the norm. So I ask you, based on the things that I said and the things that you will hear tonight, to take a stand, use your voice for something other than talking. There are plenty of people out here that need to be advocated for: education, fair housing. These should just not be things that we should be fighting for right now, but you can put your boots on and get ready and fight with it.
Thank you. I'm surprised the mic didn't just drop. I think the important thing to remember with what was just shared is that these are so much more than points that came together after a bunch of beautiful design sessions in front of a computer. They're people's lived realities, and they're very visceral, and they affect our young people every single day. So thank you for sharing your story and being inspiring. So next, I'm going to jump over to community members. We're going to kind of beat bop around the page to keep it exciting for y'all. Number 4 is parents and community members must embrace opportunities to support schools and children. And the important thing to remember with this one is this is kind of like a 2-part point, right? We want parents and community members coming to the school, and we need ways and methods to support parents and community members coming into schools. This is a and both kind of situation. We can't just blame parents for not showing up. We need to start asking ourselves the hard question about what are we doing so parents feel comfortable to show up in our schools. So the next one, I'm going to let Samantha speak to, but it is within central office, the other little blue notepad there. Teaching and programs must provide personalized support, especially to those with special needs and minority identities, like English language learners and LGBTQ+ students. So Samantha, if you will come up here and tell us your story.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Samantha. I'm a member of the APEX Steering Committee with Unify Ed. I also work with other community organizations such as the Chattanooga Queer Community Forum and with Tennessee Valley Pride in the LGBTQ community here in Chattanooga and in Hamilton County. So the item that you see there on the policy plank is teaching and programs must provide personalized support, especially to those with special needs and minority identities like English language learners and LGBTQ students. So why is that important? When students don't feel supported by teachers and administration, they aren't learning. Let me speak to that from some personal experience. So population statistics tell us that the LGBTQ community is 18,000 strong in Hamilton County. Those are families and students and our fellow citizens. Earlier this year, our community held our own Ed Talk in coordination with Unify Ed, where queer students, teachers, faculty, and community members shared their stories and their experiences in the classroom. And even I, as a transgender person who grew up here in the Chattanooga area, was really surprised at how much institutional discrimination still exists in our schools. And honestly, I was shocked by some of the stories that I heard. Students being forced to walk across the school campus to a nurse's bathroom because an administrator thought their gender identity was just attention-seeking behavior and told them so. Teachers being terrified of being outed to their colleagues and the administration for the very real fear of being fired just for who they love, like happened to a teacher in Hamilton County just last year. Students coming to class looking for help and support, and our schools not only fail to provide it, but they actually actively harm those students. We cannot afford to let that continue. Why? Because by the time a transgender person is 19, they may end up joining the 45% of young transgender people who attempt to commit suicide. Or they may join the 40% of homeless American youth who are LGBTQ. As citizens, we have to demand better, and as policymakers, you have to do better because lives actually depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha, for everything you've done. And I think Samantha's story has done a great job in illustrating the fact that the steering committee really did hold us accountable. There are ways that Unify Ed has not done well, and actively including folks with LGBTQ identities to have a place in space, to be represented in our statistics. And thank you for holding our feet to the fire and being real with us and helping us evolve as an organization that claims to do equity work in Hamilton County. All right, I bet you're wondering which one I'm going to choose next, right? All right, I'm going to hop over to community organizations and talk local organizations and businesses must support and provide resources to our schools. That falls with the community organizations. And I'm going to move left to schools. And here, this is the one that is deep and dear to my heart. I have a long history in youth organizing and working with teachers. I consider it quite the honor. So for number 7, students and teachers must have a voice in the issues that matter to them to support better relationships and engagement. It seems simple, right? Like the experts in the room should be the ones having a say. But it's important, and I want to bring Marie up here to speak to that. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marie Dean. I live in Ottawa. I'm mother to 3 children, and I've been working at Brainerd High School for 5 years. And Lorian talked about racial and socioeconomic desegregation, and that is really the first step toward that is integrating the bodies in the buildings. But to have true integration, that has to include the curriculum, the climate, and the culture in the buildings as well. And that means that every voice has an important piece of the puzzle to build that. So parents are trusting public schools to play a formative role in the lives of their children. Parents have to be a valued member of the team. Teachers are boots on the ground in the trenches. They're going to see things that administrators may not have the opportunity to see. And students have perceptions and views on things that teachers may not always be aware of unless we ask, right? And I think sometimes there's this idea that if we ask students what would they change about the schools, it would turn into like pizza, video games, beanbag chairs, and lots of naps. And but the students at Brainerd never fail to amaze me with the ideas that they have and with the things that they want for their school, whether it's more rigorous curriculum, more homework, better support for behavior in the classes. Like they want the best for themselves as well, right? And so a couple examples. Talking with a coworker the other day, she was saying she had been having some struggles with engaging every student in every lesson. Like she had the majority real well, but there were always a couple kind of on the fringes or on the outskirts. And then one of her students said, move this person here, change this, had some specific suggestions for the seating chart. She saw 100% improvement, right? Because kids know the social dynamics, they know the way their personalities interact, right? I have asked kids to help me with lesson planning, right? Because as cool as I am, and my mom thinks I'm cool, an activity that I think is going to be really fun and go over really well may not appeal to a 16-year-old, right? You know who knows what kids are interested in these days? Kids, right? So really to have public schools be the safe and respectful and supportive, engaging environment that brings out the best in every child, we need every member of the team at the table. We need to honor every voice in that.
Take your postcards, pass them to the end of the row, please. Someone will be there to grab them. Most importantly, Maria, I think you are very cool. And I do want you to know that Unified staff today was Googling what kids think is cool right now, because we were trying to find a GIF, to use in a communication. It's a GIF. Giraffe. All right, so thank you for speaking to that extremely important issue. We're going to move over to community members. And the important thing to point out here, because this is our second ending socioeconomic and racial segregation in our schools, and you've seen it before, we've talked about it before, we talked about it in the framework of having a plan coming from our central office. This is the community member call. Like, this cannot be a policy unless our communities and neighborhoods are ready and active and engaged and willing to do this work with the folks who are in leadership in our institutions and at the policy level. So that is a hearts and minds conversation. That's an affordability conversation. It is a multi-sector conversation to talk about why our neighborhoods look the way they do, why have they shifted and changed over time to be like they do, and to be really honest about why that is, because it's not just completely accidental. And there are things that we can actively do to remedy or address the segregation that occurs in our communities, whether that's being real about bank loans, whether that's being real about what our own federal government has done in separating our communities. That conversation is going to get, hopefully, really uncomfortable when we're talking to each other about it, but really productive. Number 9 is mentoring, field trips, and early childhood education initiatives must be expanded. That's a big one. That's a lot in one, but it's what we heard. And the way that we are trying to frame it to folks is thinking about the whole child. Mentoring, field trips, and early childhood are about all the things that happen when a young person is not necessarily in the classroom with Marie, right? What are the things that they're experiencing outside of just the walls of a classroom? And the way that we were talking about it the other day is, if you think about these things, these are things that are just naturally happening without intense interventions in high-income neighborhoods. There are adults working with young people. They're going out because they have transportation to places outside of their neighborhood. They're receiving early childhood education from a lot of adults in their area that are also highly educated. So the question is, what do we do to make this the norm for all of our young people? And lastly, our 10th one is student mental and emotional health needs must be supported. I'm going to invite Elizabeth up here to come speak on that really quickly, as long as she wants.
I'm Elizabeth Tolman, and I'm a mom, which is the greatest thing in my life, to 2 beautiful daughters. And also I have the incredible privilege of working on education with United Way, and I get to work for the state of Tennessee as a Building Strong Brains trainer, which means I get to help people understand how those brains... And I want to start by saying that healthy children and the healthy development of our children is really the foundation for the success of our entire society, right? To have a strong, productive society, you have to have healthy kids. And in the state of Tennessee, more than 60% of our children experience significant trauma by the time they're 18 years old. So that's way more than half of our kids. And each one of these children deserves to have a trained professional in their life that is safe, that is stable, and that is nurturing for them so that they can get what they need to be successful. And this means that we need to have counselors, we need to have restorative justice practices within all of our schools. Not just some of our schools, right? This means that when a student is acting out, we need to have someone there that can ask why, and what can I do to help you improve your educational experience? We don't just want to punish our children because they are suffering from trauma. And so we are asking our schools to do this, to let us work together to be successful in this way. And that's the big thing. Remember when you were a kid, and remember how much you needed adults around you to support you. Thank you guys so much for coming out here for our kids, because we're all part of the solution.
Thank you so much. As y'all can probably tell, the power of Unify Ed, as it should be, is with the people that we work with in Hamilton County that are the experts of their own experiences and lived realities. And so we are super thankful for the voices that have just spoken to you, as well as the ones in the room who are also experts and have served with us on the steering committee, and even you. This is really a call to join us in a movement for change. I think we're there. So I'm going to bring Natalie Cook up here. Natalie. Hi, Natalie. This is our communications guru. Natalie makes us look like we have it together, which we don't always. So right now we're going to go through some of your questions. I'm going to ask that members of the steering committee, maybe 1 to 2 of y'all answer each question. Just raise your hand if you think it's something that matters and is important to you. Hand it over to you, Natalie.
Hello. I will say that a number of questions that were asked would be best addressed by a representative of the school system. So we will get the right answers and we'll distribute those via email and post them on our website. So I'm going to select a few of the questions that were more focused on the process of the Apex project and on steering committee members' experience there. So a couple of steering committee members want to speak to this. Somebody asked, in doing school visits across the county, what were some specific inequities that you saw comparing one school to another directly?
I'll just give a quick answer on this one. One of the things that I've seen back to the restorative justice issue is in some more affluent schools, when a child has had a bad day, they have spaces that are safe where they can sit and take time away from their classes and really get healthy again. And what I've seen in some of our schools in less affluent communities is just really heavy-handed discipline, where if a student's having a bad day, that's not really okay.
So as a part of the Apex project, each committee member visited various schools throughout the county. And one of the schools that I visited in my district was Battle Academy. They have a very interesting program, and I was speaking with their principal and with some of the staff there. And one of the things that they mentioned to me was that if they had a school counselor or a school psychologist that was dedicated to just their school, that they would be fully gainfully employed at that school. And right now, it's my understanding that there are only 2 school counselors or school psychologists that travel between the however many number of schools we have in the county as a total. I've forgotten, but 70 plus schools. So 2 counselors for 70 schools isn't necessarily a ideal situation. 2 full-time. Yeah, if you have a more accurate, but that's what they related to me, was that they would want to have a full-time counselor at their school. So I can follow up on what the.
More than 2. We have a number. Every school has a school counselor. Some are part-time and some are full-time.
Gotcha. So full-time. I think that might have been the difference between. And I apologize for misspeaking there.
To add, also, I was talking with some employees or some educators in Hamilton County, specifically gifted specialists who support students who've been identified as gifted. One of them was split between 3 schools in lower socioeconomic areas. One was one of 2 gifted specialists at one school in a more affluent area. And so speaking to that either our gifted students are being not recognized, not identified, or they're being underserved in some of our schools.
Okay, another audience member asked, why is the steering committee made up solely of women? Which, while we have some lovely female representatives from the steering committee here on stage sharing their stories, there were both genders represented on the steering committee. We ensured that across age, geographic distribution, religion, country of origin, and gender were well represented across the steering committee. And the same person also asked what the role of the steering committee has been. We've talked multiple times tonight about the steering committee being an accountability mechanism throughout this process. I think it would be helpful if you guys could just kind of list through what are the ways in which you worked with your segments of the community to ensure that their voices were included through you as a representative.
So probably not just for myself, but pretty much everyone that was selected to be on the committee. It was our duty and task to go out into the community and pretty much get on the ground and find out what the people in our community needed or what they wanted to be a part of the platform. We also were tasked with going into our local schools and also going into a school that was outside of our district. So each district had 3 representatives. So we were not only sent to the schools in our own district, but we got a chance to step outside and see what the other districts were like. We also hosted Ed Talks in our various communities to engage the community a little bit more. And then we also just pretty much met together to collectively compare everything that we were learning and everything that we were also sharing in conjunction with Unified Ed. So it was just various different things that we were asked to do. But a lot of things that we found out were just, we knew that we had to get the input from the community. So it wasn't about us being this quote-unquote District 6 representative, and I'm going to speak for everybody. We had to go out and we had to find out what everyone wanted to say, what they needed to say, and what we knew we were going to have to put in this platform in order for it to cover everything.
And additionally to that, one of the things that and from my perspective in my community, earlier in the process when Unified was performing the equity surveys, one of the things that they didn't include in that survey when they drafted it was sexual orientation and gender identity. And I think we were able to work out a solution that would sort of work for including those things on future surveys. And the steering committee, spoke about that topic and what the implications were of adding that to the survey or not including it at all. And I think that one of the things that really represents was the importance of having a diversity in decision making. Because if you have people at the table, have a seat at the table, their individual lived experiences are going to provide better insight for what they need in their community. And in doing that, that was something that we hope to recreate, not just in our steering committee, but also in the education here in Hamilton County.
My favorite part of this project was that we were able to talk about the real issues, and we were able to argue about them, and we were able to disagree about them, and then we were able to keep working towards the goals that we agreed on in the first place, that we would make sure that our kids were getting a more equitable and higher quality of education. And we agreed to do this in a way that included everyone. So for me, being able to love all these people that are different, and for us to all love each other now, we believe that we've been able to do something that can be recreated in our community. We believe that we've proven that very, very, very different people can work together for our kids. And so we are expecting really great things from you all.
I so apologize to have to do this, but want to respect everyone's time, and we have just a couple more things to go over. We've got some great questions, so we're going to be working on getting those answers. And so check your inboxes, give us a week or so, and we'll get all those answers out to you guys. So thank you for your very in-depth and insightful questions, and we'll look forward to answering those. I'm going to kick it back over to Ashley and Alexa to wrap up for us.
Thank you all so much for your insightful feedback. And as Natalie said, we'll be answering every question and posting those so that all of y'all's inquiries will be addressed. So I think there's a slide for, yes, That's the one. Save the date. So we're going to be speaking a little bit about next steps. So after tonight, what can you all do? How can you all get plugged into the work? So it's not just an event you come to and then you go home back to your regular lives. We want you all to stay involved in the work. So we actually have an event coming up exactly 1 month from tonight. So on March 22nd, we have Nicole Hannah-Jones coming to join us in Chattanooga. Who knows about Nicole Hannah-Jones? Yeah? Are y'all excited? Those of you who know her? Yeah, I'm very excited. So she has done, I don't know, some of y'all might be familiar with the podcast she did with This American Life, The Problem We All Live With. It's a 2-part series, so I think we're going to be putting a link to that on our website so you guys can kind of get a preview of who she is and what she speaks to. But she speaks a lot to the segregation of our housing market as well as our public schools and how those interrelate with one another, and what we can do to kind of start addressing those things. So as you heard from our steering committee tonight, ending socioeconomic and racial segregation in our schools is really important to our community, and so this is going to be a launching conversation to dive a little deeper into what that means and what possible solutions to that are. So yep, March 22nd, I think it's 6 to 8 p.m. at Orchard Knob Elementary. So we'll be getting information about that out to you all, and we hope to see you there. And I'm going to hand it over to Alexa to talk about next steps for community members outside of attending this event.
If you didn't jump out of your seats in your brain when you saw this picture come up, go ahead and listen to those podcasts. This woman is a force of nature, and she's going to be in Chattanooga, so we're super excited. There we go. All right, what can you do while you are thinking, what can I do? What we're going to be doing for the implementation of our APEX project is we're going to be moving away from the grassroots organizing, campaigning, and massive listening that we've been doing and the bus tour, and we're going to be doing something that we're terming the Equity Collective. This is the implementation phase of the APEX project. And the way that we're going to be doing this is we're going to be having 5 teams, or working groups, or however you want to phrase them. And each of these action teams, working groups, call them what you will, we haven't decided, are going to be tackling 2 issues from our policy platform. And it is racial and socioeconomic segregation, supporting the people in our schools, community engagement and empowerment, supporting the whole child, and funding our future. This is the how of the work. We've come up with the what, and we've been talking about the why, and now we're going to get together and talk about how we're making change. So this is super exciting, and right now what we're doing is we're building out the leadership platform of these groups with our steering committee members, as well as folks in the community who've identified that they want to be a part of these groups or have expressed interest in them. These are going to be extremely diverse groups and intentionally cross-sector, right? We're going to look at housing, we're going to look at environment, we're going to look at economy, we're going to be looking at as much as possible. We're going to be talking to our public safety officials, including the sheriff's department and the police department. We're going to ask everyone to come to the table, and we're going to get ready for some hard conversations about what and how we can make change. Those will be opened to the larger community come April, May-ish, meaning we want you there if you want to be there. We'll be sending out those kind of invite papers, and I believe that Natalie, do we have some paper versions tonight?
There are applications on the sign-in desk that can be picked up on the way out or filled out online.
Okay, awesome. So pick some out on the way out. If you apply, you can drop it at Unify Ed. We'll be having them digitally as well. Give it to one of us on the way out. There are a lot of questions about your identity and who you are, because equity matters to us, as does diversity. And look forward to hearing from us in April. And you will get to be, if you want to participate in your own version of the steering committee and start boots on the ground making change in our county. I'm going to hand this back to Jonas. Where is he? Everyone is hiding from me every time Okay, hi. Thank you, everyone. It's great seeing you.
I want to thank you all once again for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. We tried to have a small, intimate gathering tonight, and I think the Barking Legs Theater was an absolutely great venue for that. So thank you all. We really appreciate it. Like I said, we're trying to reach the apex together, and we need all of you. So we're hopeful that you all will remain engaged. This is a years-long process. Equity isn't like flipping the lights and tomorrow, everything's better. This is going to take years and years. It took us years to get into this. It's going to take us many, many years to get out. So please join. Please help out as best you can. And we thank you all again for coming tonight, and I hope you have a great night. So thanks.